Alright guys, welcome back. We are going to be looking at not so much lessons to learn how to code, but we're going to be tackling a little project right now. So what we want to do for this project is we want to build a 10-question quiz. So they're going to answer 10 different questions where they can answer A, B, C, or D on them. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of guide you through just making our first question and just seeing how it works. It'll be a nice little review of a couple of the things that we've learned already so far as well. So I'm going to print quiz, and then I'm going to print a blank, and then I'm going to print Q1. What is the first month of the year? Okay. And then notice how I'm doing a lot of printing. I'm not even doing anything about the quiz yet. A, February. And I'm going to get really lazy. I'm going to copy this, paste it, so I can change these to B, C, and D. January, April, and let's see, I don't know, June. All right. So we know the answer is B, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to print another blank line. Now is where I'm going to ask the person for their input. So I'm going to say Q1 underscore ANS, Q1 answer equals input, your answer, colon, space, space, quote, and the parentheses. So now what I have is I've basically got a system where I'm going to print a lot of information at the top. Then at the bottom, I'm going to ask them for their input as an answer. Because when they do that, I can say now if Q1 answer equals B, print that is correct. And then I'm going to put an else print incorrect. So now what I have is basically a quiz that tells them right or wrong. So let's try running it. Do I want to save it? Yes, I do want to save it. Desktop, Python files, exercise 6.5, quiz. Save, and it should run. So now what I have right here is Q1, what is the first month of the year, and they can see their 4 results of things that they can type in. So now when I type in the correct answer, I get that as correct. If I go back and I run it again, I'm going to answer it down here. If I enter something wrong, it's going to say incorrect. All right. So that's our basic quiz. What you're going to be doing first off is you're going to make 10 quiz questions. I wouldn't do it yet in Python. The reason being is we're going to add some more features to this, but I would make your quiz questions on like a Word document or something that you can copy and paste. All right? Because what we're going to be doing is once these 10 questions are made, first off, that's like something I could have given you in like 6.2. We are going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing this, and then I'm going to give you challenges to figure out everything on your own. I do have to teach you one additional thing in this lesson, and then you should be able to do all of these different things. 10-question quiz you can do very easily. Take the entire essence of it, copy it, paste it. Now you have question 2 ready to go. And I should probably bring that back so it lines up. Okay, so that's what you want to be building or doing or working on, building this first quiz question. Then we're going to add some features. The first feature that we have to add is a point system. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of this really quick, and we're going to try to integrate that into our code so it works out. So what I need to do is make a new file on here because, let me minimize that, I want to show you some things on how to build a point system, and then you should be able to build and operate this new style of learning code. All right. So let's say that I have a variable. Let's call it apples, and we're going to start with 5 apples. All right. If I say in my code apples equals apples plus 1, and then I ask to print apples, what's going to happen is we're going to start with 5, and then we're going to say, well, apples is now equal to the old value plus 1. So let's try running this. Let's call it exercise 6.5 quiz. Let's call this points.py. Okay, and I run it, and I get 6 as a result. It's a little bit raised up, and the answers are on the bottom. So let's shrink this down a little bit because we're just going to look at a little bit of data at a time. All right. So what I've done is I've said apples equals apples plus 1. If I remove that piece of code and just run this, you can see that we started with 5 apples. All right. If I paste this 3 times, now the value of apples is 8. So every time this piece of code is added into something, every time it encounters this code, it will increase the value of apples by 1. There is also a way to do this on a much shorter way. Apples plus equals 1. If I run this, I should get that same 6. This is an even shorter incremental thing. You're basically saying apples add what it used to be and is now equal to plus 1. I know I phrased that a little bit weird, but this is what you do. You do plus equals. You can also do minus equals if you want to subtract. Multiplying. Let's see if that works. Let's double it, though, because if you just multiply it times 1, you get itself. Yep. So star equals 2. So if you do this, the operation and then the equal sign, you're setting it equal to, in this case, twice what it used to be. All right. I, for now, like to do this instead, just because in my mind it's apples equals itself plus 1. Okay, that increases it by 1 point. You can use whichever one you feel comfortable with. For me, right now, beginner level coding, it's all about just making sure that things make sense to us when we write out the code. All right, we can take these shortcuts and use these different increase or decrease modifiers later on when we feel more comfortable playing around with them. All right, so what we can do with this is we can go even further. I can do something like add apples equals input, add an apple. If add apples is equal to yes, then I can do that code and I can print added 1 apple. Else print added no apples. Let me just get the code a little bit taller so we can read it all at once. So now what we have is our apples are set at 5. Add apples equals input add an apple. If add apples equals yes, we increase the amount of apples by 1, and then we print that we've added an apple. And then at the bottom, we will print how many apples we have. So let me run this. Okay, add an apple, yes. And added 1 apple, and we went up to 6. If you look at our quiz, these look very familiar. I haven't exactly given you everything for it, but I've given you a pretty solid understanding of how this will work. So from this point on, I feel confident saying you are on your own for figuring out the point system. What I would recommend is a print statement of the score at the bottom, because otherwise Python will say, okay, I'm keeping track of all these things. I'm not going to display it because you never asked me to at the end of the quiz. So make sure that you put a print statement at the bottom to make sure that you can follow how that works. And that will actually satisfy this piece, display the score at the end of the quiz. All right. What you also may want to do is accept uppercase or lowercase answers. So you could accept capital B, or, there's your hint, you could accept lowercase b. I'm going to let you, again, figure that out on your own. All right, some other things you can do. At the end of the quiz, you could tell them if they pass or fail based on the value of their points. You could ask them for their name and address them by the name as well, like throughout the quiz. You could, at the beginning of every question, say, hey, Brian, would you, answer this question? Or, Brian, you got that correct. Brian, you got that wrong. And at the end, you could even say, at the end, Brian has failed the quiz, or Jessica has passed the quiz. And you could get a bunch of cool stuff going on with that. If you want to get real fancy, you could make a certificate of completion. Let me see if I have a photo of that somewhere. I am no graphical artist. I am no whiz with Python, but, making a certificate can't be that wild. Here we go. So you could do something like this. Programming quiz. Brian has failed the programming quiz. Or your quiz could say something like, Catherine has passed the programming quiz. So notice how I went color-coded for each of these, so you can kind of see or show how the person has passed or failed on there. All right, so that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. And then finally, the last thing that you can do is at the end of every question, you can actually display the progress at the bottom of the quiz. So if I'm on question 4, right, once I finish question 4, how many points could I have earned? 40 possible points on a 10-question quiz. So you could say, right after question 4, the user has earned 20 of the possible 40 points. And then after question 5, if I get it right, the user has earned 30 of the possible 50 points. So see, I kind of show like progress throughout the quiz. You could even get real fancy and turn it into a percentage if you wanted to. Number of earned points divided by number of possible points times 100. Round the decimal places so it's not some crazy long winding decimal. You've learned all of that. And see what you can do. All right, so this is kind of like a little challenge. This is a checkpoint to see how well you're doing. You should be able to build this pretty fluidly and comfortably. This is the kind of thing that if you've paid attention, you've put in the work, you've tried things, you're developing some passion for learning and gaining skills in this field, this should come by pretty easily. All right. So I wish you the best of luck. And if you have any questions or difficulties, you can always post them in the YouTube comment section or ask me personally. All right. Thanks for watching.